For questions and comments, please use the chat located in the center of the bottom of your screen. The webinar will begin momentarily. For questions and comments, please use the chat. For your convenience, please turn your cameras and microphones off during the webinar. The webinar will begin momentarily. Real ID is a passionate and committed team. Through entertainment technology, we contribute to our clients' social and professional development. We offer a comprehensive service that responds to new challenges and has established our active international presence. We provide our clients with the right balance between their needs and our platform's optimal performance. We seek precise solutions for the continued use of legacy systems and, where appropriate, development of required applications. Real ID has grown thanks to the port and maritime industry's safety and security needs. Each of our modules are managed by a simulated artificial intelligence called Soleil, capable of learning scenarios and finding solutions according to the end user's requirements. For questions and comments, please use the chat located in the center of the bottom of your screen. The webinar will begin momentarily. For your convenience, please turn your cameras and microphones off during the webinar. The webinar will begin momentarily. Real ID is a passionate and committed team. Through entertainment technology, we contribute to our clients' social and professional development. We offer a comprehensive service that responds to new challenges and has established our active international presence. We provide our clients with the right balance between their needs and our platform's optimal performance. We seek precise solutions for the continued use of legacy systems and, where appropriate, development of required applications. Real ID has grown thanks to the port and maritime industry's safety and security needs. Each of our modules are managed by a simulated artificial intelligence called Soleil, capable of learning scenarios and finding solutions according to the end user's requirements. For questions and comments, please use the chat located in the center of the bottom of your screen. The webinar will begin momentarily. For your convenience, please turn your cameras and microphones off during the webinar. The webinar will begin momentarily. Real ID is a passionate and committed team. Through entertainment technology, we contribute to our clients' social and professional development. We offer a comprehensive service that responds to new challenges and has established our active international presence. We provide our clients with the right balance between their needs and our platform's optimal performance. We seek precise solutions for the continued use of legacy systems and, where appropriate, development of required applications. Real ID has grown thanks to the port and maritime industry's safety and security needs. Each of our modules are managed by a simulated artificial intelligence called Soleil, capable of learning scenarios and finding solutions according to the end user's requirements. For questions and comments, please use the chat located in the center of the bottom of your screen. The webinar will begin momentarily. For your convenience, please turn your cameras and microphones off during the webinar. The webinar will begin momentarily. Real ID is a passionate and committed team. Through entertainment technology, we contribute to our clients' social and professional development. We offer a comprehensive service that responds to new challenges and has established our active international presence. We provide our clients with the right balance between their needs and our platform's optimal performance. We seek precise solutions for the continued use of legacy systems and, where appropriate, development of required applications. Real ID has grown thanks to the port and maritime industry's safety and security needs. Each of our modules are managed by a simulated artificial intelligence called Sole, capable of learning scenarios and finding solutions according to the end user's requirements. For your convenience, please turn your cameras and microphones off during the webinar. For questions and comments, please use the chat located in the center of the bottom of your screen. We will now start the webinar.
Here we go. I hope everybody can hear me and that my mic is not off. Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon to those who are past the meridian already. My name is Jorge Duran, and I am the chief of the Secretariat of the Inter-American Committee on Ports, known as the SIP. And good morning to all and welcome. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar, Gender Equality in the Port Maritime Sector, Inclusion as a Catalyst for Competitiveness. This webinar, it's been organized by us, by the SIP, and the Women in Maritime Caribbean Association, also known as WEMAC, Barbados chapter. It is an issue that it is, as I was telling the speakers, we have wonderful speakers today, very close to my heart, you know, and the SIP, this is important that I mention, is the only permanent inter-American forum to strengthen hemispheric cooperation in port development. And the SIP brings together the national port authorities of all 35 members of the Organization of American States with the purpose of fostering a competitive, sustainable, secure, and very importantly, inclusive port sector. And this inclusion, of course, has women in mind, the underrepresentation of women in the sector, the differences between treatment. And this is something that we want to address because recognizing the fundamental, the essential role that women play in the development of a modern and efficient port and maritime industry, the SIP, we became the first multilateral port organization in the Americas to adopt gender issues as one of its cross-cutting mandates. So we began, and we have this very close to our heart, which is why this, through our partnership and strategic alliance with outstanding organizations such as WEMAC, Barbados chapter in this case, that we are in the position of bringing concrete and actionable benefits to our port and maritime community that contribute to later increasing gender equality in our sector. With that in mind, I would like to thank WEMAC Barbados chapter, under the leadership of its president, Kemi Linton, for joining forces with us, with the SIP, and for being a champion in this key issue that is so relevant in our societies today. A big thank you to our panelists, to Kemi, obviously, who is here representing her chapter of Barbados, but to Lisa Gale, to Donna Regis, to Audrey Mcneil, to Pearl Gerding, and of course, Nyla King, who will all be participating in this event. I will not introduce them now because that comes later, but I wanted to name them and to express my sincere gratitude for your time, for your support on this event. So thank you, because you are going to share your impressive trajectory and expertise, and I am very excited, as I'm sure the rest of us here are, to learn about that. Thank you also to our strategic partner, Real ID, our technological partner, for their support, and of course to my right and left hand, Mona Swoboda and Monica Blanco from the dream team at the SIP Secretariat for their contribution to make this happen and make it a success. Wishing you all, a fruitful discussion, an interesting panel round. I thank you again for joining us today, and take my leave by passing on the floor to Kemi. Kemi, the floor is yours, and welcome again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Jorge, for an excellent introduction. I want to recognize you as the Chief of the Secretariat, and to thank you and Mona for the commitment to REMAP Barbados, and to our objectives really of fostering greater awareness in the first instance on the issue of gender equality, and commitment to working with us really to achieve some of the objectives that we have as REMAP. I also want to recognize our distinguished panelists who you have all named, and thank you all for participating today. I want to recognize REMAP Barbados Executive Committee members, who I see some of you are online, my sisters from REMAC, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. A few days ago, I had the distinct pleasure to meet a group of distinguished panelists who are here today to present to you. And there was one thing that most of us had in common. That is, we did not necessarily choose the maritime sector, but the sector chose us. I shared my experience on how I wasn't quite sure how my background in international trade would support the port, given its operational focus. But after being given an opportunity, realizing that trade and ports do not operate separate to each other, but they coexist, particularly for small island developing countries like ours, which are net importers of goods and rely on efficient and modern ports to facilitate the entry of the same. However, the main takeaway from our discussion was the beauty of what happens when women, particularly the few who have risen to some of the highest levels in this sector, begin to share experiences, not only amongst themselves, but in forums such as these, which can only serve to inspire and empower future female leaders in this space. It also speaks to the power of diversity, not only as on this occasion, as we discuss gender inclusivity, but as a catalyst for competitiveness in our various spheres across the maritime sector. But we also speak to diversity in terms of our skill sets, the talent we seek to attract, the diverse skills which are most needed as we navigate this quickly evolving world. And that competitiveness is no longer about doing the same things that we have done the same way, but better, but about finding new and innovative ways of engaging new perspectives to address the challenges which confront us frontally. Efforts to achieve competitiveness without simultaneously working towards gender equity and equality will result in a loss of opportunity to truly realizing that human sustainability element of the SDG agenda, and to position our organizations within this sector to be able to address the future challenges which may confront us. The COVID-19 pandemic was one such challenge, and certainly the past 2 years have been devastating for many of us who have lost friends and loved ones. But if I were to speak on one such positive that has resulted from the past two-year period, I would choose to speak today on the visibility brought to women's leadership. Women have had to lead as they traditionally have, but only this time in the spotlight. We would have transitioned to work from home arrangements, all while managing homeschooling arrangements. In the workplace, many women have had to lead and support teams from the front line with distinction, leading with the one characteristic, emotions, that we have been used to describe many a woman, in this space and others. I have had the distinct honor of working with some of these outstanding females within the maritime space, but in particular, the port environment. However, according to an article published by the OAS, in the Caribbean, 85% of the women who are employed in the port sector hold non-managerial positions. The other 15% at the decision-making level within the organization. It should also be noted that those managerial level positions are mainly administrative and financial rather than technical and operational. And while ports have increasingly been addressing sustainability issues, gender equality has been a low priority in such efforts. According to the World Port Sustainability Report of 2020, gender equality is ranked almost at the bottom of port priorities in their projects. We need to address the question on how ports have been addressing gender equality to contribute to sustainability. What this means, however, is that all of us here today as leaders have an unprecedented opportunity to build more resilient and gender equal economies by investing in inclusive workplaces, advancing women's rights to leadership positions, and applying a gender lens to reskilling and redeployment to safeguard the future of work. It is within this context that the IMO has supported the creation of 7 regional associations for women in maritime across Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, and Latin America, and the Middle East, and Pacific Islands. These associations are made up of female maritime professionals and provide a forum for networking, exchange of ideas and initiatives on industry developments, while motivating and empowering women through training. Our partnership with the OAS, Inter-American Committee on Ports, and the convening of this webinar today, which received over 200 registered participants, is a true testament to the importance and timeliness of these discussions. Additionally, the support from our corporate partners and sponsors, whose commitment represents an all-in approach to this very important work which we have ahead of us in achieving gender equality in the maritime sector and the port sector, is commendable. In closing, I say to all of my sisters here today, when individuals choose to enter careers where they have been a gender minority for some time, or when you aspire to rise to the highest level in organizations that have traditionally been led by men, one is bound to experience challenges, barriers, and biases. We are indeed breaking new ground, but this requires special knowledge and awareness. In this vein, learning about the gender issues and what creates a sense of fairness and equity should be the goal for us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Kemi. Thank you very much, Jorge, for both your wonderful opening remarks. I see Jorge applauding. Kemi, your words were inspiring and enriching, and you really set the stage. So thank you so much, not only for your wonderful remarks, but also for your partnership and collaboration. I've had the pleasure and honor of working with Kemi in several projects, and it's just such a delight to work with you. My name is Mona Svoboda. I am program manager at the OAS SIP, part of, as Jorge said, the SIP Dream Team. And it's my honor and pleasure today to guide you all through this webinar. Our panelists will share successful practices and offer recommendations on how to effectively implement a gender perspective into port and maritime operations. And following their presentations, We will have a roundtable discussions where together we will identify elements for greater gender equality and also discuss the benefits these can bring for the industry's performance. And I invite you here, the participants, when we get to the roundtable, to please feel free to ask your questions through the chat function. You will be able to do that. I'm excited to inform that we're also live on YouTube. I will ask my colleague Monica to please post the link here so that you may also follow on YouTube as well. Now it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce our first distinguished speaker, Lisa Gale.
Mona,
yes, Jorge,
darling,
go ahead. Of course, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I figured I'd do it before you get to present and to introduce Lisa.
Yes.
For those individuals that would like for the event to be seen by someone else, that's when you send them the YouTube link, because there's no registration needed. So once Monica puts it up, and she just did in the chat mode, you can just copy that and send it to your brothers, mothers, everybody, and they can just click on it, and we'll see a deferred event. It's about 30 seconds behind or something, but it does not require anybody to register, so it's a quick link to the event itself. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time again. I'm sorry to interrupt, and I'll give it back to you, Mona. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. No apologies needed. That was an excellent intervention. Yes, please share the link with whomever you would like. Now, again, it's my honor to introduce our first panelist, Lisa Gale. Lisa is an experienced trade policy advisor, trainer, and management consultant who has served in both the public and private sectors of Barbados. And prior to her current role as the executive director of the Barbados Accreditation Council and serving on the board of directors of the Barbados Port Inc. in the capacity of chair of the HR committee, Lisa served as executive director of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and she was the first woman to ever hold that position in the then 184-year-old institution, and that is impressive. Lisa holds several degrees, and she's currently pursuing postgraduate studies with the University of Melbourne. And I am so excited for your presentation, Lisa. The floor is yours, and I will ask my colleague Monica to please assist us with sharing Lisa's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mona. It's my pleasure as well. Thank you as well for the invitation. I'm so excited about Jorge's energy and that he is leading such an impressive organization. He also has an interesting agenda. As he has said, he has both a right hand and a left hand, and both of them are female, and he's always been encouraging the gender perspective, not only in workplace, but also in his family, having two daughters who are very keen to continue to advance their agenda. So I'm very pleased that Jorge is leading, and I'm seeing his leadership play out. I commend you, Jorge. Thank you for that. And as well, I thank Kemi, who continues to impress me. She's not aware, because I'm HR chair, I'm aware when she first came, I'm aware when she was recommended, I'm aware of the work she's done so far, and she's left us now at the Barbados Port, but she's gone on to continue her work. And Kemi, thank you so much for the invitation. And as well, having met these distinguished panelists, I'm pleased, and I'm looking forward to this discussion. And thank you as well, Mona and Monica, for your organization, not just your organization skills, because you're all our specialists in your own right. So my name is Lisa, as you heard, Lisa Gale. I am going to talk a little bit about gender equality in Port-Maritime sector. As you know, the theme for this is inclusion as a catalyst. And having joined the board of Barbados Port Inc. in 2018, at that time we were at a place where, we go to the second slide, we were at a place where there was the first female board chair that there ever was in the history of the port. 60 years we celebrated subsequently, like 2 years later. Is there a way that I can move my slide to the next one? If I have host sharing privileges?
Lisa, if you just indicate to Monica that next slide, she will do that for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just a little bit about the port. I'll get to the discussion on gender diversity closer to the end of the presentation, but just about us. we are the only port in Barbados. We interact with a number of countries. They have more than one port. And in my discussion with Jamaica just recently, they have quite a number given the size of that country. So just a little bit about our port here. We continue to win awards. We are a full service international trade support, and we are very pleased with the work that we've done. Quite a number of staff, just in excess of 400 and something persons, but we'll get to the separation shortly. But just a bit more in terms of containers, dry bulk. We cover everything. We also do cruise as well, and we are a very important destination for a number of those cruise entities. You can go to the next slide. Managing over 100,000 TEUs every year. This is our vision, to be the most innovative green maritime hub in the world by 2030, and as well our mission to be the most customer-focused, cost-effective, and highly efficient provider of value-driven cruise. We also do cargo, as I said earlier, and we also have another part of our work, which is a significant part, where we manage various properties across the coastline while providing satisfactory benefits to stakeholders, including customers and employees. And that's our mission. You'll see that our vision, just only 2 years ago, we sat in a room with all of the senior management, all of the board, and we came up with a new vision. And I'm sure you can't see the word gender in there. You can see green, you can see maritime hub, you can see innovation, and you can see in the world by 2030. So the genesis of what this is really saying is that we don't have, as Kemi said, a significant focus on gender equality or gender diversity as part of our mandate. Next slide. And these are our departments. We have a number of them, all led by some very keen individuals who've been significantly advancing the mission. We actually have new mission directives and imperatives with effect from just a month ago. But just to say, we have a digital innovation and development team. They also have the management information services, and projects fall under that category. Terminal ops, engineering and marine services. And then in specific security, we'll deal as well with property management and maintenance. Finance, internal audit and quality assurance. And we just won an award in quality assurance quite recently from we became ISO compliant. So I'm sure the team was very pleased with that new award. And then the human resource and industrial relations division. And for sure, last but not least, business development and corporate communications. So we have a pretty large build out in terms of the departments that we have, and we continue to advance the mission, really moving on to becoming that green maritime hub. Next slide. And this is just a little bit about us at the Barbados Port. Next slide. Yes, these are some objectives that we've identified starting from this tenure here under this board. We now have we've just been reinstated after the elections, just about a couple of weeks ago. We have a couple of things that are of particular import to us in terms of our people, our processing efficiency, our value creation. We want to do a little bit more with waste to energy. So you can see there's that infusion of the green that we have identified as important to us, expansion of alternative energy. And then we're also expanding our infrastructure and our real estate build-up, because we also want to look to ensure that there are other revenue models that we can add to what exists. Next slide. When I get to the meat of the matter, this is just really the information about us. And these are our board. These are the members of our board. The highlighted here, of course, would be the females on the board. The others are all, you can see 3 to the other 9, 3 to 8. Next slide. In terms of our senior management, this next slide you can see the full structure. Our chart is showing within the management team, we have 6 persons within the senior management, and then we have 9 males. So that's the ratio 6 to 9. Next slide. Yes, so out of the full staff complement, 135 of them are females when we talk about gender diversity. And then for males, we have more than double that, we have 360. And as I mentioned earlier, within the executive management now, not just the management team where we have 7 to 9, we have 1 female, and then we have 5 males in our executive management team. And I did mention earlier that it was in 2018 that we had the first female chair of the Bridgetown Port. And since that time, we've hired 5 females within management. So you can see that there has been some infusion of, or there has been some attempts to increase the number of females. And it wasn't just that was the agenda, but that actually happened based on those persons having those skill sets, etc. Then we have now, this would have been only after elections, we now have the first female minister with responsibility for the port. And this would have been announced in, I think, was the 21st or the 23rd of January of 2022. So this is new for us. We now have our first female minister of responsibility. And if I may, the minister, Senator Lisa Cummings, is in fact the former chair who was the first chair. So yes. So those are just a bit on the facts. I would go quick into the meat of the matter now. Having seen what the layout is for our port, I'll tell you a little bit about what the agenda is. Next slide. And it's very clear that there is not that level of 50-50 like what exists in the world. We say that we have half and half. We have 8 billion people in the world. We have 4 billion females and 4 billion males, but across many sectors, and particularly we're focusing today on the port, we don't have a number of women falling in the category or attracting to the port by virtue of the type of jobs that exist, whether it's marine ops, etc., security. But we have seen over the years that there has been that movement where women are seeing that it is important, and it is not that they can't do the job, but oftentimes they have not had the opportunity to. And because now of the intention to involve more women in activities, we're seeing the gender diversity occur. I just wanted to put specifically a little definition here so that we're all clear, because there are different definitions. Gender diversity, talking about the equitable or fair representation of people of different genders. Oftentimes we have more males, particularly in this port sector, as Jorge said at the very beginning, we are underrepresented from a female perspective. Gender equality now refers to where all genders are free to pursue whatever career, lifestyle choice, and abilities they want without discrimination. And can be mentioned, as we talked last week when we came together and had a preliminary discussion, none of the females in the group planned to be in the port sector. It just happened because automatically when you're thinking about a career choice, the port doesn't come first. It's not one of those in the options. Next slide. So when we talk about gender diversity and gender equality, there is an attempt now for persons to be trained and to understand, next slide, to better be able to appreciate how they can infuse gender equality into their work. And I only mentioned 3 here, but there are a couple more, but we need to be aware. We need to be aware that there is inequality. The first thing is to know that there is inequality. What is it that we're trying to achieve? Is it that we just want to have 50-50, or do we want women to feel appreciated in the space that they're in so that they can give and add value to the port sector? We must educate as well. Too often people say things and they dismiss females, or they misconstrue the value that a female can bring to the table. And too often we have females only falling within whether it is a secretarial stream, but never really a female engineer or female head of operations. Too often we are seeing them just in areas where you call it the female post. And is it really that a female can't be an engineer? And we're seeing more persons are coming out. So we have to educate, and as well, the legislative support is necessary. If we don't have if we don't have these systems in place to say, well, we want to have, and I was looking at Barbados, a study that was done just 2019-20. So we would have finished that study in 2020. That was done by the Barbados chapter of the International Women's Forum. And they were looking at the index, the Gender Diversity Index. And interestingly, Barbados fared pretty high. We came out with 29%, but this was specific to women on boards. This did not go throughout the entire working spaces across Barbados. This was specifically to women on boards, both public and private sectors. And the ratio for public sector was actually higher than the ratio for private sector on the boards. So that tells you something that and that is just Barbados specifically, but the legislative support, are they putting measures in place to say, well, are we going to be putting ratios in place? That's not happening in Barbados right now. And I believe it is because there is no policy prescription on gender equality here in Barbados. And it hasn't figured in very largely on, if you look at the manifesto, and if you look at the Covenant of Hope, and if you look at the documents that inform the policies of the government, gender equality and gender diversity falls pretty low. How are we doing on time? Next slide. I think I have 2 more minutes.
Yes, you have 2 more minutes exactly, Lisa. Thank you.
Lovely. The IMO example, and this is now the broader now across the globe. Now we're looking at the statistics, and they've actually introduced with a new formal strategy how to integrate more women in the maritime sector. And I say kudos to them for this, and this is a great example. And they've launched a gender program in 20. It was 96. It was some time ago. Yes, it was in 96 or 95. And this is really to promote women's access across the industry and to increase their participation. And they've done it through some strategic actions, whether it was through their knowledge sharing, their gender awareness training, and their gender specific fellowship, so as to infuse more women in the sector so that they can participate and become aware of what's going on in the port sector and be able to share with other females. And one of the things Kemi mentioned earlier was the importance of the sharing. Next slide, the importance of sharing. When women come together and they share ideas and they share experiences and share stories, it really encourages another woman to continue or to be attracted to that space. I think I have 1 more slide. Yes, so we have seen some positive trends. And Tad, I'll go to the next slide, given that the time is gone. There are 3 slides on positive trends. If you look at the data that they've been using with the Port Performance Scorecard, they're actually showing that, come on, next slide, the next slide can help. They're showing that there's increased female participation based on looking at the PPS. And then lastly, only 1 more, just the last slide, and then come back to this one. The penultimate slide would be the one, not this slide, the one before. Okay, I'll stay on this one then, but back at home here now, having looked at the trends globally, the port has committed to improve, and they've committed to ensure that they continue to be professional. Next slide. And they have made and I would have reached out to the port's CEO and the head of communications and business. Next slide. I'll just read this last slide and I'll wrap up. So while there is not a broad policy prescription from the government of Barbados, the port having identified that it is a dynamic and a progressive company, it has committed to seeing more women take up jobs that were in the past only limited to men. And we've also seen here at home increase in persons in terminal operations, in security services, in engineering and marine services, and in ICT. And we actually have one of our managers is the head of the ICT division. So that is it for me. I hope that I have teased out a little bit in terms of what is happening here and what is happening abroad. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you so very much, Lisa, for your presentation. I have the pleasure to be currently working on a project together with the Port of Bridgetown, and I am just so amazed by the ambition and really the drive to become really a change maker in the region as a port. So, and I think your role and your experiment is a testament to that. So thank you very much for your presentation. It was very insightful, and I looked forward to hearing more from you in our roundtable discussion. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Donna Regis. She's the General Manager of the Antigua Cruise Port, and she has over 20 years experience in the cruise port management industry. Donna's immediate past role was Business Development Director of Margaritaville Caribbean Group in Jamaica, and she was also the CEO of the British Virgin Island Cruise Port and Director of Marketing and Product Development with the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, where she started her career in the cruise industry. She holds an MBA from Durham University, where she focused on the sustainable development of the cruise tourism industry in the Caribbean. And I am very much looking forward to her perspective as it relates to the cruise tourism and the cruise industry. And Donna, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, Mona, and thank you so much for this introduction. And I would like to say a special good morning to all of our participants. It's amazing. There are 136 participants. So this is amazing. And I want to especially say hello to my team here in Antigua who has joined this webinar. So I'm just going to share my screen and picking up right from where Lisa left off. So I want to just start with the company I work for, Global Ports Holding. We are the largest cruise port operator in the entire world. We operate in 14 countries around the world, and we have 26 ports under our portfolio, including 3 ports here in the Caribbean. That would be Nassau, Antigua, and La Havana in Cuba. And this sets a perfect platform for us to really embrace diversity. And I'm really proud to say that I work for a company that has, from the onset, embraced diversity. And to just zero in a little bit about Antigua Cruise Port, we took over this port in 2019. And since taking over this port, we have actually completed an additional berth. So prior to COVID-19, we could have accommodated just about 800,000 passengers on an annual basis, about 386 calls on an annual basis. Right now, we could accommodate just about 5 vessels, mega vessels that is, alongside, including the world's largest vessel. And we do expect to welcome the world's largest vessel by the end of this year. And in fact, during this year, we had the privilege of accommodating 7 vessels in one day. So we're quite a busy port. And my presentation would really focus on the cruise sector within the maritime sector, because as Mona introduced, that this is where that's been my home for the last 20 years or so. So I want to start with a little journey, in terms of the women's journey in this sector. It started off very interestingly, where women were not even allowed to go on vessels because it was considered bad luck for a woman to go on a vessel. Women were compared to mermaids and sirens, and it was felt that it was the woman would lead the sailors into peril and the vessels would get lost and all of that. So that was a myth that went on from generation to generation. And it was not until the 1980s that women had an opportunity to even attend the Maritime Academy. However, when opportunity presented itself, women came forward. And in 2007, the world welcomed its first female captain when Karen Jansen of Sweden, she took command of the Monarch of the Seas operated by Royal Caribbean. 8 years later, America welcomed their first captain, Captain Kate McGew, and she took command of another mega vessel called the Celebrity Equinox. And just 1 year later, I'm proud to say that we had the first Black female captain, Belinda Bennett, who took command of Windstar. And the progress of women is not only seaside, but we also see this trend landside. Right now, there are 5 CEOs running major cruise lines around the world, including Princess Cruises, Azamara Cruises, Celebrity Cruises, Carnival Cruises, and also a boutique river cruise, Uniworld as well, all headed by women. And in the Caribbean, certainly we've had major moves, I'm very happy to say. And as Kemi said in her presentation, we're underrepresented, but I think we're on the right path. First, in the Bahamas, we have last year, Royal Caribbean named Erin Brown of the Bahamas their godmother. And she now joins the ranks of persons like Oprah Winfrey, Katy Perry, Kathy Lee Gifford, Queen Latifah. And what that does is to give a different type of face and diversity to the cruise industry. She's the first person from the Caribbean to be named a godmother for a major vessel. And right alongside Erin is Ivana Seymour. Ivana is now the second officer on the Navigator of the Seas. And her goal is to become the first female captain in the Caribbean. And I want to be around, and I know she could do it, and I want to be around to celebrate that with her. On the management side, the British Virgin Islands, their managing director is Olinville Maynard, and she has had that position just about 2 years now. And right here in Antigua, we have Mary Claire Hurst, and I have the privilege of working closely with Mary Claire, and she's the chairperson of Antigua Cruise Port. And Sharon May and myself were the only 2 female managers in the Caribbean. Sharon is based in Dominican Republic. She manages Amber Cove, which is owned by Royal Caribbean. Which is owned by Carnival Cruise Lines. And myself, I work along with a wonderful team that manage the Antigua Cruise Port. And I'm proud to say that at Antigua Cruise Port, we have a 50-50 split. And this organization chart that you see here shows, and I went traditional here, pink for ladies and blue for men. And then I have purple for when we have a mixed section. And at Antigua Cruise Port, as you could see, both in terms of our administrative aspects and our operation aspect, you see a very good diverse here. That doesn't mean though that we have it all figured out. No, it's a learning process for us. And there are several programs that we have engaged ourselves in. And first, just as Lisa said, awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So one of the first things we did when we took over the port is to present our employees to the public, male, female. This is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I contribute to the port. And it was very interesting that a lot of our security officers, our facility manager, our custodian supervisor, all of these were female. And it was very refreshing with the type of feedback that we got from some members of the public. And we extended that not only for our employees, but stakeholders, because we see ourselves as a national contributor. So in our decision making, we always take into consideration the diversity that comes with our stakeholders, our taxi drivers, tour operators, vendors, retailers, persons like that as well. So we extended our awareness and our profiles to those persons. And every year, we do not let the International Women's Day pass by without us doing something. And doing something meaning not only focusing on female, but also focusing on the gentlemen that were working right alongside the females at the port. Finally, as part of the awareness, there was a time I didn't think I had a story to tell. I managed the port, I did my work, but many people started to ask me about my story, and I started to share it. And in sharing it, I felt that I was doing my part to encourage other persons to join this magnificent industry. And again, as Lisa said, education. What education does is to bring everything into focus. And our education is both formal and informal. Just the fact that we have cross-functional teams working together, male, female, sort of assist us in drawing the benefits of when people come together. We also brought in a consultant to help us with team building and other aspects of formal training. And the final one that we look at is engagement. And this is where, for us, the rubber meets the road. So we look at our recruitment policies. And when we recruit an employee, how do they grow in that in the company in terms of the career ladders? And again, as I said before, because we are a port of, we manage a port, there are many business opportunities that are available within the port. And we want to ensure that we have equal opportunities for both male and females when they would like to do business with us. Similarly, our community outreach programs has to do the same thing. And again, because we work for an international company, it gives us an excellent platform to develop international partnerships and learn best practices from around the world. And if you were to ask me, Are we ready for the future as a cruise port? I would tell you certainly. As I mentioned before, we have just completed our 5th berth, and we could accommodate the world's largest vessel here. You could see superimposed on this photo here is one of the Oasis class vessels. And our target is to reach over 1 million passengers within the next 2 years. And also beyond the quay, we're looking at also doing our upland development where we have about 80,000 square feet of space to develop, to create more opportunities, more business opportunities alongside the port. So in terms of the development and infrastructure and all of that, we are certainly ready for the future as a cruise port. But beyond that, we have to be ready for inclusion, we have to be ready for diversity, and we have to be ready for equality. And how do we do that as a port? I don't think that we could separate the business aspect from that aspect, because we exist within a society. And one of the things that I think we must do is to address this issue head on. First is the perception of male-dominated industries. We're no longer in the 19th century where women were not allowed on board vessels. We now have a platform, and for persons who wish to go into this industry, we now have the ability to do so. So sometimes a lot of these perceptions comes from us ourselves, and we need to address that. And secondly, unconscious biases. We all have it, and we cannot deny that we do not have unconscious biases, and we need to find a way to address this unconscious bias, which then leads to stereotypes. A woman can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. Yes, there are biological differences between male and female, but I think these differences, when we come together, is what gives us the strength. And speaking about it, this is not just a trending topic. This is not something that we just sit and talk about, but there are tangible benefits as it relates to diversity in the workplace. The McKinsey Group put out a study in 2015 that said that companies that embrace diversity have a 30% more chance of greater profitability. And why is that? Because it has been proven that when you have diversity, there's greater employee motivation and productivity when people feel a sense of belonging. You have a more balanced decision making. And this is very important for a port because a port serves a society. So if you exclude certain persons from the decision making, then your decisions could negatively affect certain portions of the society, which leads to competitiveness. It's a competitive industry. We have to be able to put all of our positives together to be able to compete into this market. Competitiveness then leads to profitability growth and then future proofing. But how do we sustain this? We sustain this by actively building a culture that promotes EDI. And it starts with our employee onboarding. That first day an employee comes to the office, what is the sense that they get? Which mentor do we assign that person to? Is it included in our evaluations? I could tell you the company that I work for, it's included in our evaluations. Then you have formal training. In the Caribbean, we have the Caribbean Maritime University, where persons could actually, if that is their desire, could actually go to school and become trained to be part of this sector. And finally, how we interact with the public. The public must get that sense that this is a company of inclusion. This is a company that embraces diversity. And this is very important for a port where you have persons from different geographical locations coming to visit the port. You have different stakeholders from different economic backgrounds coming to work at the port. So this is very important that we understand that. And finally, I leave you with this photo. It is my personal photo of the year for 2021. Why is it important to me? This photo gives a very good balance. Everybody you see there is somehow associated with the port. And you see that they're both male and females there. And you also see a very young lady there. She's in grade 6, and she has an interest in the maritime sector. And she reached out to me and wanted to do a project on maritime. And I invited her to this special ceremony we were having at the port. And her first question to me was, what role do you play in the port industry? And I proceeded to give her a summary of my job description. And she said, what else? And I felt that At the end of this day, I was going to be an inspiration to her, but she ended up being an inspiration to me when she asked me, and what else? So I took a deep breath and I said to her, I want to ensure that I create opportunities for persons like you, little girls like you, who want to get into this industry, that it continues to be attractive and it continues to set a path for you to come into this industry if you would want to. She smiled and said, thank you. So I leave everyone on this webinar with this question. Apart from your main job, what else? Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much, Donna, for your very inspiring presentation and for leaving us with this this wonderful question. And your presentation was truly inspiring. And I saw a comment here from Gavin, who said the next generation is so important. And I just wanted to highlight that as well. And also thank you, Donna, because I think you left us with some very actionable recommendations. So that was really inspiring and insightful. And I thank you very much. Up next is my great friend, Audrey Mcneil. Audrey is a maritime security specialist with the Port Authority of Jamaica, and she entered the field of maritime security in 2005 as an ISBS auditor, and in 2010, she assumed total responsibility for managing the certification and compliance activities on behalf of the designated authority. Audrey is also a maritime security consultant engaged by the IMO so far on 4 missions to Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, and in Jamaica, where she trains maritime security practitioners in ISBS compliance and certification principles. Audrey, it is, as always, such a pleasure and a delight to have you. And I will pass the mic on over to you.
Thank you.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mona. And for the ladies that went ahead of me, those 2 presentations were so inspiring. And I feel proud to be a part of this webinar and to be in this illustrious, this company of these illustrious women. And I hope that I'll do you proud when I do my presentation on how we can integrate the gender perspective into security and safety strategies. So let me start. Great. So let me start by saying that this is a topic that cannot be explored in its entirety in just 15 minutes and a few slides. So it's a very relevant topic. There's a lot of studies that have been done recently on this matter. And what I'll attempt to do is just bring some awareness to the issue and to stimulate further discussion as well as action and strategies for the future. So how I'm going to approach this, because we have such a diverse audience, I think it's very important for me to start by talking about what we mean by resilience, how resilience is built into port security and safety strategies, how gender equality in security and safety strategies strengthens resilience, and how through a case study, although there's anecdotal evidence to support it, women have contributed in the recovery in the pandemic, even building back stronger. Okay. Now let me give you a little context. Now, resilience in the maritime industry is very important to sustainability and the growth of economies, because part of resilience is the ability to recover and to continue business. And we have seen this play out every day recently since the pandemic. There's a case study I'll be sharing with you, although we have anecdotal evidence, as I mentioned before, that women have demonstrated natural abilities in the managing of crises. And I think this was mentioned earlier by Lisa, how women had to be balancing their lives and at the same time balancing jobs and family, and were able to do so successfully. However, women are largely excluded from shaping these policies, strategies, and programs. And that's what came out of a research, Women Are Better Leaders During a Crisis, by Jack Zenger and Joseph Folkman. So what is resilience? Well, Mike Edgerton, in his book, A Practitioner's Guide to Effective Maritime and Port Security, used the American Society of Civil Engineers definition. They were speaking of critical infrastructure, and he thought that it was a good one to use because ports are recognized as critical infrastructure. So when we speak of resilience, we speak of the ability to withstand and recover from extreme conditions. So you continue operations, to the best of your ability, you can hold strong and maintain in spite of conditions. And when we speak of port security and safety strategies, for those who may not be familiar, we're talking about the security and safety measures and approaches that are employed to safeguard a shipping port from extended interruption in business due to natural disasters or man-made disasters, pandemics, terrorism, and other unlawful activities. And usually these strategies include detection, prevention, analysis, response, and recovery. These are all wrapped up in the security and safety strategies. So it's a fully integrated approach, and it involves risk assessment and management of and continuity of operations. When these principles are applied in your security strategies, businesses are resilient. So you have an integrated prevention, deterrence, mitigation, emergency response, continuity, recovery, all wrapped up in these measures that are applied. But why resilience? Why is building resilience so important, especially now? Well, Mike Edgerton listed these as well, some of these in his book. He actually dedicated an entire chapter to resilience. 80%, there's an 80% likelihood that any business will go through a crisis over a 5-year period. Those of us in the maritime industry, we can think about that. And the fact that we have had this experience, the latest being the effect of the pandemic. And these effects last over a very long time, as point 2 brings out. I mean, 3 months after the crisis, you're still experiencing a decline in your stock prices, and even recovering in terms of your operating income can take up to 2 years or more. Globalization, this is increasing the risk to all businesses because we're now looking at supply chains, and once they become disrupted, they affect us no matter what part of the world we're at. To many, the experience we're now having as being on this side of the world in the Caribbean, as against what's happening in Ukraine, with that war between Ukraine and Russia, many persons didn't think that it would affect us. But because of the dispute to globalization and the supply chain, we're having a shortage in fuel. They say we're going to have a food crisis very soon, and there's a wheat crisis as well. And so globalization has increased the risks that affect us. And of course, there's climate change. There's an increase in natural disasters, and they not only an increase, but the intensity of storms and their earthquakes, things that damage ports all over the world that we have no control over. Therefore, we have to build resilience and prepare for it. Digitization has also increased cyber risks. And of course, 30% of businesses fail after disaster. So we must build resilience in our strategies. So in a world where the potential for crises is increasing, we must build resilience into our business by employing security and safety strategies. So let's move on to the most important part of this discussion, gender inclusivity and how it contributes to resilience. Now, I found these 3 quotations that I'm sharing sometime last year when I was participating in a similar webinar. And I'd like to share them with you as well, because it sums up what we're trying to talk about today. First, success in the maritime field is much more about using your intellect than your muscles. As was brought out earlier by Donna, the maritime field was dominated by men. And so in the minds of many, it was a job for muscle. Things have changed. We're now looking not just at hard hats and vests and muscle. We're now looking at strategies, building strategies, and looking at a more integrated approach, protecting your supply chain, building resilience. These are all things that are now part of the maritime industry and that require intellect. Okay, let's go to the next one. If we want our society to flourish, we need to engage all of its talents, all of its human resources at all levels. That says it all. Now, this is a clincher. Women are the other half of society, and without them, like everything else, maritime will also be incomplete. Women are needed to make things complete. So let me just make a disclaimer here. We're not excluding or demeaning the contribution of men. We're just asking that we find our place and that we be recognized for what we bring, harness our strengths and gifts. We're talking about inclusion and balance. Women embody resilience. It's our nature. Therefore, the theme of International Women's Day for 2022 was quite appropriate. Breaking the bias, smashing stereotypes, breaking inequality, rejecting discrimination. Has anyone ever heard of the glass cliff? We've heard about the glass ceiling, but I was introduced to the glass cliff, which is when a company is in trouble, a female leader is put in charge to save it. Usually we're given something broken where chances of failure are high. And what's the result? We succeed. So it's not a matter that we're not recognized for our value, but we just are not involved. We're not at the table when it's time to develop the strategies to build resilience. Disaster risk reduction, resiliency policy strategies and programs need to involve women. We are assets in this sector and in security and safety part of the maritime industry. When it comes to building resilience and those strategies, anecdotal evidence has shown that these are 6 very strong qualities that embodied women. We're forward-thinking, flexible, creative, proactive. We're planners, we're results-oriented. And now we have a scientific study done by the Harvard Business Review, December 2020. And this is what they were doing. They were rating the performance of men and women on their effectiveness in managing the pandemic. And women outscored men in most categories prior to and during the pandemic. But what are the other areas women scored higher in? And this was by their peers. Interpersonal skills. They inspire and motivate, communicate powerfully, team building and collaboration, and relationship building. These are all skills that are necessary, especially in the recovery, but also when we are planning for or planning our strategies and our policies, these skills are so important when we sit at that table to put those together so that we can build resilient ports. And what did the people say we need in leaders now? The ability to pivot and learn new skills, emphasize employee development, even in tough times, honesty and integrity, sensitivity to stress and to the anxiety and frustration of their staff, traits more often displayed by women. So in summary, the primary objective of security and safety measures is to build resilience. And this is seen in what makes up the safety strategies and measures and the security strategies: prevention, mitigation, response, continuity, and recovery. Studies have shown that women contribute greatly to the recovery and continuity after a crisis. And we see that happening right now as we live through the pandemic. And what are we asking? We're asking that women be included in the strategy and policy development phase so that we can minimize the effects of a crisis on all sectors. Thank you so much for your attention. And as I said, hopefully from here on, we can start planning our action items, how we go forward, including women more in building resilient ports.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Audrey, for this wonderful presentation on a topic that is so important, and that is the resilience of our industry. And I have also never heard of the term the glass cliff, and that was very eye-opening. And I was like, I've heard stories that relate to that. So thank you very much for that. And I would also like to take this opportunity and take this moment to let you know that Audrey was named one of the 7 powerhouse women in Jamaica just recently. So congratulations, Audrey, and thank you so much for being with us today. Up next is another one of my dear friends, Pearl Girding. She is the security manager at the Suriname Port Management Company. And here Pearl supervises and manages the facility security officer and oversees the development and management of the facility security plans for the marine cargo terminals and cruise ship terminal. She maintains liaison with the captain of the port and vessel security officers, and she undertakes regular security inspections of the port facility, among many of her other duties. And she's a very busy person, and I am just so happy we were able to get her to join us here today. Pearl, my dear friend, it is, as always, a pleasure having you, and I will leave the floor up to you.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you to everybody who participates. Also, thank you to my previous presenters. Hi, Audrey. I didn't get a chance to say hi to you, but hi to everybody else. Thank you. I don't have a presentation, so I listened to the wonderful presentations that were done before me. And what I will do now is I will just talk about my experience as a manager of security and PFSO. I'm at the port now for almost 20 years. I'm responsible for the security, the biggest port in Suriname. And when I came to the port, it was mainly male dominated. And at one point I had to get accustomed to that, but other way around, the people around me had to get accustomed to that too, to have a female at the head of the department of the security. And later on, about 2 years after that, also the port facility security officer. What I've noticed during the time is that people start to question my leadership, because it was the first time in many years that you had a female as in charge of the security. You don't often see that. I don't in Suriname. I think I'm the only one here, and people start to question everything that I'm doing because I was challenged especially in the beginning. I was challenged both internal as external. People were questioning everything that I was doing. They were creating an atmosphere of not able that I was not able to do it. And even one person was trying to remove me from the position. And that person was a male. I'm not that I'm against male, but those were some of the things that I experienced when I got into this position. But one thing I've learned especially at the beginning and up till now is that you have to stand firm in what you believe, and you have to treat everybody with respect and do what you say and say what you do. That is one of the things or these are the three things that I've learned, that I battle through, and that people start to respect you as who you are as a person. I always say it is not because you are a woman, but it is because what you are able to do, the knowledge that you have, and the way you can try to get people across the line to do what you ask them to do. Because people, they want, sometimes they want a leader, they want to believe in what you are doing, and they want to believe that what you're saying, that is really true. And that's why I say you have to stand firm and believe in what you're doing. If you look at the at our the management of the port, then you have management is about 50% female. This is 50-50. If I look at the security core, the security that I'm in, then I have 45 persons working, and from the 45, only 5 are females. And I'm always busy with these females, these 5 females, trying to ask them and to encourage them to do the best they can, not to outdo or try to be better than a male, but just try to do your best. Because if you are doing your work and something goes wrong, people start to complain. But I am saying no. If a male is doing is making a mistake, a female is making a mistake, hey, there are people, we are not looking at them at a male or a female, but we are looking at a person who's standing in front of you, and that person must do his or her work. And if something goes wrong, we will help you or we will guide you, and in preventing that this won't happen in the beginning. I have one policy, and that's what I always say: work is the same for everyone. Not because you are a female, then we will treat you differently. That is one of the things that I have. And if you have to do your security duties and you have to stand somewhere in the night, and there's less lights or lesser of accommodation, it doesn't matter. You need to be there, because at the end of the month, we all get the same amount of money. Not because you're a woman or female, that means you get more or less. No, we get both. We get the same. So means you have to do the same job. What I've noticed too is that in my work, that people are trying to overtalk you. For example, if something is happening, if then they expect that you have to act a certain way, and then they have to you have to respond a certain way, and sometimes what I also noticed is then, especially with this male dominated, then they come and then they want to, you know, come with strong words, and they point fingers to you and that sort of stuff. And I am a kind of person, the moment you come with pointing fingers, coming with strong words and that sort of stuff, then you are at the wrong tree. Because then I will put you in your place politely, and I will let you know exactly what I expect from you, what you did wrong, and I will tell you in nice words what I find of what is happening and how I will deal with it. And so another thing that we also notice here at the port, and I guess that it's also the same thing at other ports, that we are, you know, at a port we use a different type of language. As once I was in front of a judge, and the judge in a court, and he said to me, you know, the port is another world, and that is also the case here. The port is another world, and sometimes they are testing you out to see, when they come to you and they start to use language that you don't want to use, and then just to get that power over you as a person. And but I said no, not for me. So in the 20 years that I'm up here at the port, I see so many things happening. Things came, things go, and we are, especially at the security, we are dealing with sometimes small crimes, but also much bigger type of crimes. For example, drugs busts and that sort of stuff. And I have to say that up till now, we have a very good grasp on what is happening at the port. When I look at the security, we try to do our utmost best. Another thing is, what we are also trying as management is to look how we can ask or interest women into the security business. You don't really have that. People of women in generally, they don't like it, and the reason why is because they normally have a family, they have kids, and since this is shift, then they have sometimes a problem with that, and because normally they have to be at home when their kids are coming home from school, or when they are sick. It is the mother that has to bring the kids to the doctor and that sort of stuff. And that's why you see that most of the women, or I only have 5, and from the 5, only 3 are working shift. And those 3, 2 are working shift and 3 not. And the 2 others that are working, that are in the shift, they have adult kids already, so there's not a problem with that. So that is one of the things that we here in Suriname are dealing with. That is one of the points that we have to look at. We don't really have an answer for that as yet, but most females, they are not really interested in this work because of the shift that they have to work. Actually, my presentation is kind of very short because I just wanted to share my experience with you all, and the previous speakers, they all gave us their story already and explain everything. So if I had to do that, then I will repeat it again. So, but Mona, that is
Thank you.
me.
Pearl, thank you so much. And I have to say it again. You've, since I've known you, I think it's been 8 years now. You have been an inspiration to me personally, both professionally. I truly look up to you in the way you handle yourself, and you're just very inspiring, but also on a personal level. I think you are just such an inspiring person. So I really think that your lived experience that you shared with us today was really important for the discussion that we wanted to foster today. So I thank you very, very much for that. Thank you. We will get right into our roundtable. So I am inviting all our wonderful panelists to please join us, turn on their cameras. Audrey, Lisa. Just trying to be mindful of time. We did start a little late, so apologies for that. I will do a first round of questions. I invite also our participants, if you have any questions that you would like to raise, to please do that in the chat. We'll take it from there. I see Lisa also joining us again. Thank you. So yeah, I'm just I'm truly just in awe and speechless. These presentations that you've given today have been very insightful and inspiring, and as I mentioned earlier, also truly actionable. So I think we're all learning a lot. My first question is for Donna. Donna, while there is significant progress of women in the maritime sector, and you highlighted that in your presentation, there is unfortunately still a major gap in particular in the leadership roles. What can women do individually, but also collectively, to create opportunities for upward mobility in the maritime sector?
Thanks, Mona, for this question. I will start with individually. As I mentioned in my presentation, we have to take a look at ourselves. Look at, first of all, what's causing that gap. You know, and I want to also say there is nothing wrong with a woman who chooses to be a stay-at-home mom. This is an amazing profession within itself. There's nothing wrong with a woman who chooses to be an executive assistant to a male or female leader. There's nothing wrong. Once you find that whatever you choose to do as your vocation in life, it brings you joy, then I'm 100% supportive of that. So individually examine yourself, examine what you want to do, where you want to take yourself. But put no limits on yourself. And that's what I would say individually. Now, collectively, we need to start talking. As I said before, there was a time where I was very shy about telling my story. I didn't think that there was a story. But the more we talk about things and the more we shine a light on certain things, is the better it becomes. I grew up in a time where I was fortunate enough where Indira Gandhi was president of India and Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of England. And in the Caribbean, Imelda Charles from Jamaica. So, and my mom had her own business. So I didn't put any limits on myself. So growing up, I grew up with that confidence that I could do anything that I can do to progress myself. So I think collectively, if we talk about it and we open doors for other women, when we get into certain positions of influence, open doors for other women, talk about it. Often you hear persons talk about, I had a bad experience with a woman leader. I felt, as if this woman was keeping me back. I think that needs to stop. And that is one of the things that we could do collectively.
Thank you, Donna. I agree with you. And I think fora such as this are part of that solution. So thank you very much for your insight. Mm-hmm. Audrey, from your point of view and as it relates to your area of expertise, what are some of the barriers that discourage women from entering this career path, and what can we do to break down these barriers, real or perceived?
Okay, Mona. Well, I can use my my career path as an example, I'm one of those that stumbled onto the maritime industry and port security. So I would start by saying educating more women about the possibilities that exist within this industry for them. And now, as opposed to when I entered, there are even more possibilities, more opportunities. So I would start as early as in high schools. I think we should make an effort to be there for career days, and even to invite the younger women to come and see women in action in different parts of the industry. We have them even for us in the Coast Guard, which is part of maritime security, even within working on vessels at ports in different capacity. So by finding opportunities to insert ourselves into career days, when we look at what happens at a career day, many times the maritime industry, especially in my case, maritime security, we are not represented. It is those same careers that people are accustomed to. And many of the traditional career paths that women were used to automatically embrace no longer exist. They're left behind. And now we need to open the minds of the young women and let them see that there's so much more out there within this industry and that they can have a successful career. So as the saying goes, they have to see it to be it. So let's help them to see it so that in the future they'll want to be it. So that, I think, is one way. Another thing is we ourselves as women have to break down those self-limiting beliefs that we have, that we're just not able to. This is just too hard for me. This is not me. So we can start by working on ourselves and the message now to the younger generation, the younger women, and then invite them to see for themselves that it is possible.
Very empowering words, Audrey. We have to empower ourselves from within sometimes, and I couldn't agree more with you. Lisa, you earlier gave a wonderful presentation on the Port of Bridgetown and its vision and mission. So, how can gender inclusivity and diversity be leveraged in ports as they work towards greater efficiency, sustainability, and competitiveness?
Yes, that's a mouthful. I'm thinking, even as we, in the capacity of HR chair of the Barbados Port Inc., hiring practices is one of the things that we can use as a mechanism to improve in terms of diversity and inclusivity. But we can also, within these same hiring practices, we can ensure that we look for key competencies in the persons that we include in the particular job functions that we're looking for. And we can also do things like collaborations and partnerships. I want to give, of course, a big shout out to VMAC, which sees the value of women in the maritime space. And they have 7 chapters across a number of countries. And if we were to continue to bring awareness to the work that is going on in the port, I'm sure there are a number of persons who are here on the call who are not aware of all of what is happening. They're not aware of the lovely work that Audrey and Donna, that they're doing, and Pearl. And this exposure and this awareness can also be brought to bear for persons to improve in terms of the attractiveness to the sector. I also think we can also, not just partnerships, etc., but in terms of the awareness and the education as well. I mentioned that as one of the benefits of inclusivity, gender inclusivity and gender equality. Those are some things I see that we can put in place. And of course, if hiring practices are, of course, engendering that awareness, then we can see more persons being hired, being attracted to the space. Then we will have that increased number. We want to have that off balance in terms of the GDI, in terms of a smaller index. We'll start to increase in terms of the index. It will then, of course, improve competitiveness, because we will have all of the competencies, the better competencies coming to bear to work in that particular port. We would also see improvements in relationships, human relationships in ports, etc. And when more persons are part of a team and they want to be there, then they do better, and we see an improvement in terms of productivity, etc. So it works in terms of building efficiencies as well.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I just want to note that we still have 140 participants with us at this point, and that literally never happens when we have these webinars because people are busy and after a while you log off. So I am just amazed. This is so exciting, and thank you to everyone who's stuck around and is still with us. I really appreciate everyone being a part of this discussion. And there was actually a question for Pearl in the chat. Pearl, someone asked, Tamika Charles asked, Pearl, what inspired you to become a PFSO?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I at one point I did another study. I was not even in the maritime sector, and at one point when I did my past, let me see what the study is, because people will be maybe amazed. I did theology. And yes, and during my internship, they asked me, do you want to do something else besides theology? And I said, yes, I want to do something. And they asked me what? And I said, I want to go with the police and do a surveillance. I don't know why I came with that idea, but I wanted to do it. So I did it. And I really enjoyed it. In the States, I did it. And for me, one of the most amazing things that I ever experienced is that we were driving on one of the main highways with the sirens on, because we had to go and catch a guy, and you know, and one way or the other, I guess that thing stayed somewhere. And also the sport that I'm still doing, I'm in karate, and it was somewhere there, I guess, when I stopped with theology. Then I actually rolled into the security at the port. When I came, we didn't have the ISPS yet, and at one point I came in and I rolled actually further into it, and with the ISPS, and that's how I became the PFSO and then manager of the security department. That's how it went.
Just as we mentioned earlier, by accident. So and we're so happy that happened, Pearl, and that you are such an integral part of the port and maritime community in our region. So we're very happy that happened. I will go ahead and I'll have one more question for each of you. I just want to be mindful of everyone's time, and then we'll wrap up. My next question is for Donna. Most companies, in particular the private sector, are driven by profitability as the bottom line. And my question is, how can gender equality contribute to that goal? It goes a little bit in line with what Lisa mentioned earlier as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a great question, because at the end of the day, unless you're a nonprofit, you're in business to make a profit. But there is a direct correlation between diversity and equity and inclusion and profitability. And that has been proven by a number of studies. As I said in my presentation, the companies who have actively engaged in that have seen an increase in their profit over time by at least 30%. So there is that correlation. And in addition to the profitability aspect, you have other things that lead to profitability that should not go unnoticed, because it would become part of how you do things strategically going forward to encourage future proofing. These things could be, very importantly, increase employee productivity, employee motivation, because at the end of the day, your employees are so important to your operation, especially within the maritime sector, where it's really a 24-hour operation in many cases. So definitely that correlation between diversity and equity is very important. It's not a buzzword. It is real and it's tangible, and it is what will springboard us as managers, as leaders into the next era of operations.
Thank you, Donna. I think you mentioned something that is super important. And, you know, with all the developments and investments in port infrastructure and port modernizations, we should never forget that our most important asset is our human capital. So
right, yes.
you make a very important point there. Thank you so much. Audrey, my next question is for you. And I would like to know if you, or given your extensive experience, right, in the industry, I know you started in the airline industry, but do you think women bring particular skills, qualities, or abilities to the sector significantly as it relates to your field?
Oh, definitely. I would say that, because what a lot of people may not know about the International Ship and Port Facility Security Code, it carries a lot of administrative duties, especially from the designated authority perspective. You have to be able to organize, because one of the rules of maritime security is if you don't have the paperwork to support the action, it's considered not done. So you have to be very organized. You also have to be a team leader. You have to bring, in my particular field at the designated authority, you have to bring people together and motivate them to do what they need to do to protect not only our borders, but that of the world. You have to be able to communicate effectively. What is the interconnectedness of the maritime space means one weak link can destroy the entire chain. So there's a constant motivation, team building, a coming together. You have to also be able to analyze, because maritime security is so dynamic that things change constantly. So you have to have flexibility. You have to be aware that you need to see what's happening, assist in the change of possibly policies. And I think I mentioned most of these qualities in my presentation as being intrinsic, for women. That's us. So in my particular area, I think that while it might have seemed like it was the ideal job for a male because of our thinking of security as male dominated, so many women have come in as PFSOs in the designated authority and have done such a wonderful job. And they have managed to keep global trade going without a major security incident. And that speaks to the strength of the qualities of women in this particular career and this sector. So I would definitely say yes. I hope my examples support my my yes vote.
Yes, they sure do. They absolutely do. Thank you so much, Audrey. Lisa, this is a little bit of an opportunity for you to share a little bit of your perspective and guidance. Let's say a female employee has been told by her senior manager, who's a male, that she's too emotional and too irrational in response to her seeking out growth opportunities in the organization. How do we address such biases that exist as it relates to women and leadership?
Oh, so that employee, well, he's the employer. The male is the employer.
Yes.
Or he's just a senior manager.
He's the employer, senior manager, employer.
Okay.
Yes.
So he's not operating at the most emotionally intelligent space to start with. I'm sure he can coach her and give her some guidance. He's also inaccurate to suggest that she is too emotional because all of us are emotional. We are human beings. We express emotions every day. Some of us, people say we wear our emotions on our sleeves. But I think what he needs to be probably doing is coaching. That's one opportunity that was missed. Secondly, she in her communication, as she continues to strive for growth opportunities, I don't think she should be dumbed down and be dismissed because of what he may misconstrue as poor emotions or as weak emotions or etc. But she could also do a little bit of emotional intelligence training as well, so that when she gets opportunities where she's in leadership, she can then express herself in ways that are not, I wouldn't call it too emotional, because I don't agree with that term. I think all of us have emotions. And as Pearl said earlier, women are expected to, they're judged much harder than men. And it isn't fair, some of the allegations that are made about women's behavior, about temperamental, etc. And we do admit that we do have some bad apples in the space. We have women who may not necessarily be as relational, etc. But those who are striving for growth opportunities, they should always be embraced. They should be coached. They could be encouraged. And I'm sure she can find a role model, not just, yes, mentors. She can find some mentors, etc., but not be disregarded because of her scenarios that she would have had with him. I hope I've covered, I've answered that in a scenario like that. How would I encourage her? I could also ask her to apply other places, because she's not limited to any one space if she's not getting that growth opportunity in any one space.
I like that last recommendation, actually. You know, we don't have to be in spaces that aren't good for us, and we can seek other opportunities where we're valued the way we are. And yes, there's nothing wrong with being emotional whatsoever. So wrapping up the roundtable, my last question is for Pearl. Pearl, if a young woman asked you why she should consider a career in the industry or a career as a PFSO, what would you say?
I will tell her, you have to do it because there are opportunities in front of you. You can help to bring development, not only at the port as a whole, but also for the security in particular. It is you who will help to shape the whole scene of the port security-wise. And at the other side, maybe you don't even notice it, but you are also in the position to teach persons how they have to behave when they need to come to the port and what is expected from them. And here is not a free-for-all or a Wild West, but that you are the person in charge to show them that once you are here, you have rules and regulations which you have to keep up. And if you don't, then you have to come and be responsible. You have to respond to me when I will ask you the question. But the most important thing is you will be part of the development of the growth of the port, as for the security one way, but the growth and the port in general.
Wonderful, Pearl. I think with that, you would have won her over to pursue a career as a PFSO. I may switch careers at this point after your speech.
Okay, thank you.
Don't tell Jorge I said that. Thank you so much to our wonderful, inspiring, and accomplished panelists. You are truly an inspiration, and I look up to every single one of you. And this was such an honor to lead this discussion, and I'm very grateful that I had this opportunity today. And I just wanted to thank you so much for making time for this important forum today. So thank you very much to our distinguished panelists. Thank you also to our participants who have stuck around and for their wonderful comments. I've been reading in the chat. Ladies, if you haven't had a chance yet to read the comments in the chat, just wonderful discussions and encouraging words. And this is really what it's all about. So Thank you very much. Also, a quick reminder, the recording of this webinar will be available on our website. We will send out the link to the recording shortly, but you can find, sorry, I'm typing. I can't multitask, even though I'm a woman. I don't know how to multitask. So this is our website here. And then if you click on the webinar tab, you will find the recording of this webinar, hopefully by the end of the day. We try to be very efficient. And also with the permission of our panelists, we will upload your wonderful presentations, and because they really serve as, you know, as an informative work of body, and you've put very much effort and thought into your presentations, and I really want to thank you again. And without further ado, I would like to offer the floor to Najla King. She's the Director and Special Advisor for Maritime Policy and Education at WIMAC Barbados, excuse me. And Najla, please, the floor is yours for your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Mona. I want to say a resounding congratulations to the ladies who presented today. Your presentations were very informative. They were very relevant in the context of what actually happens in the contemporary maritime sector. So again, congratulations to you for those very insightful presentations. In closing, I would like to add, or rather reinforce, that gender equality in ports and other male-dominated industries is becoming increasingly important in the sustainability agenda. In the realm of maritime security, which is also a male-dominated sphere, we need to address gender segregation, compliance with gender policies and laws, promotion of gender equity and gender equality in order to empower women in the port and maritime security realm. Maritime education and training provides a key access point for women to break ground in port and maritime security. The International Maritime Organization, IMO, reinforced this in 2019 when it facilitated 23 women to participate in a maritime and port security course at the Galilee International Management Institute in Israel, in furtherance of the 2019 World Maritime Day theme, empowering women in the maritime community. Sensitizing women to the strategic, legal, technical, and logistical aspects of maritime security, including port security, will not only equip women in the maritime sector to confront security-specific challenges, but will also benefit the sector, as women can and do often lend a differing perspective than their male counterparts. Women, for instance, may be more sensitive to the social and environmental dimensions of maritime security issues, such as trafficking in women and girls by sea, migrant smuggling by sea, direct and intentional acts against marine natural resources, also referred to as marine environmental security threats, especially when one considers the heavy reliance on fisheries by women for their livelihoods. Women's inputs, therefore, will become more valuable in maritime security education, policymaking on maritime security issues, and maritime security governance. Training women on key IMO maritime security instruments, such as the SOLAS Chapter 11 tool, the International Ship and Port Facility Security ISPS Code, and the ILO-IMO Code of Practice on Security in Ports, will build capacity among women in the maritime industry and empower them to navigate complex maritime security threats facing today's shipping and port sectors. Organizations such as the Inter-American Committee on Ports, WIMAC Barbados, and other maritime-specific organizations are strategically placed to promote a more inclusive maritime security sector within ocean-based industries. I thank everyone for their time and attention.
Well, thank you very much. I guess it is my turn to thank everyone, and including Mona and Monica, who have put this together in collaboration, obviously, with Kemi and the Barbados WIMAC team. And needless to say, I don't need to repeat what has been said ad nauseum on the chat, and that is the fact that they all love your presentations. They were very informative. They gave people things to go on. They were inspirational. And on that note, I did want to tell Pearl that should you want to send us some bullet points or something about what you said, so that we can include it in the web page of this event in our portal, we'd be very grateful to you, Pearl, if you could send us something in the next couple of days, and we will upload it there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, if breaking a little bit of protocol and realizing that we're 6 minutes away from ending this, but offer just quickly the floor to all our speakers and Kemi for a quick goodbye to the audience before we're all transferred to a special VIP room to go over some stuff of the seminar. So I'm just going to call you guys as I see you here. Lisa, some goodbye words and farewell to everyone.
Yes, thank you so much. It was my pleasure. I'm very keen to be in this auspicious group. I was very impressed with the presentations from my colleagues, and I really want to say thank you to all of those 140 persons who came to hear us and participate. From the Barbados Port. Hello.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you very, very much. And now I have no order. I'm just calling you guys as I see you. Pearl, would you like to take the floor just to say goodbye to everyone?
Yes, I want to say bye-bye and till next time.
Until next time, thank you very much. And like I said, if you can send us something to complete that thing would be very, very
yes, I will do that. I will do that.
Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
Okay, right.
Donna, please go ahead.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Jorge. And on behalf of Global Ports Holding and Antigua Cruise Port, thank you so much for including us. As I said, I think we could still continue to talk about this. I think through talking about it is when we could inspire real change. So thank you. And to the amazing panelists, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you, and to the participants. Goodbye from Antigua.
From Antigua, beautiful. Okay, and then Miss Audrey Mcneil.
Thanks, Jorge. I had failed to mention at the start, as Donna did, I'd want to acknowledge my family, my PHA family that took the time to join the webinar. Thank you so much for being here and for your support, and I'm sure you've learned a lot. Thanks to everyone, our friends from all over the Spanish-speaking Caribbean and South America, Central America. And thanks to the SIP for inviting me to be here as a part of this. It shows a confidence in my ability to share my experiences effectively. Thanks to Lisa, Pearl, and Donna, it was a pleasure being beside you today. I feel honored. And of course, thanks again to WeMap Barbados for allowing me this privilege and honor.
Thank you very much, Audrey. And before I give it to Kemi for her last words, before they move us somewhere, I want to acknowledge, in addition to all those participants or audience members from the English-speaking Caribbean, I want you guys to know that this event was so hot that we have several ports from Mexico, Tolobampo, Veracruz, Lázaro Cárdenas. We have people from Florida, from the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have people from Peru. We have people from Argentina. We have from the Puerto de Buenos Aires. We have Ana, the deck officer of Lázaro Cárdenas. And this is just a small sampling of the international crowd that joined us. Well, she's there. She is Joanna from St. Lucia. But again, beyond English-speaking Caribbean, this event caused ripples. And we have women, professional women participating from literally all over the region. So I could not consider it a more successful event than this, thanks to you all. So for final words, I'd like to offer the floor to Kemi, President of WeMac Barbados. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Jorge. Just to thank everyone. Today has been, as you all presented, I got a number of messages. I've seen the chat. It has been truly inspiring. I know this is not the first for these discussions, but I certainly believe that today set a very high bar for us as we move forward and as we embark on achieving the objectives and bringing greater awareness, education, and getting more females really attracted to this space, because we recognize that, you know, we have to show our faces so that persons can see that it is a space that they can take up, you know, opportunities at various levels, but of course, at some of the highest levels to really chart and lead our region forward. So I want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank my team from BMAC Barbados. I want to thank my fellow governing council members from BMAC, some of who I see here today. And I want to wish everyone a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful rest of the week. And I look forward, I can tell you certainly, we will be having more discussions like these. And I like the pointed directions that Audrey mentioned in terms of looking forward to the actions coming out, because we are all about action, but we recognize that we have to start speaking about these things, because for some of us, these are areas that are not traditional. Sometimes they can be uncomfortable, but that's what life is about, having uncomfortable discussions and seeing how we can ensure that we have a fair and equitable and equal, you know, opportunities for everyone. So thank you all and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kemi. Thank
Thank you
everyone.
all.
And I must, before giving it back to Mona, just call out people from Guatemala, people from Brazil, people from other Mexican ports, from Guaymas, from the Port Authority there, and Itaqui, no Brazil, Maria da Graça Abreu, muito obrigado. And again, this event has had ripples in all of the continent. So kudos to you, ladies. And Mona, I give you the floor for closing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all. I really can only echo what you said. I wish everyone a wonderful rest of your day. Ladies, please stay online with us for a brief second. We'll take a group picture. And to everyone else, thank you so much. And we will sure to stay in touch and provide more of these wonderful for us. So thank you all. Thank you. And I believe we'll be moved into the other room. Martín y equipo, cuando estén listos.
Real ID is a passionate and committed team. Through entertainment technology, we contribute to our clients' social and professional development. We offer a comprehensive service that responds to new challenges and has established our active international presence. We provide our clients with the right balance between their needs and our platform's optimal performance. We seek precise solutions for the continued use of legacy systems and, where appropriate, development of required applications. Real ID has grown thanks to the port and maritime industry's safety and security needs. Each of our modules are managed by a simulated artificial intelligence called Sole, capable of learning scenarios and finding solutions according to the end user's requirements.